Chosen one, why do you feel like you're living someone else's life? Why does every morning feel like you're walking through scenes that don't belong to you? Why, at this stage of your journey, does your soul still ache for something you can't even name? Stop right there. What I'm about to tell you will shatter everything you thought you knew about this Wednesday. This isn't just another day circled on your calendar. This Wednesday will feel like a film, and you, beloved, are about to step into the leading role of a scene that heaven has been scripting for decades. If you found this message today, it is not chance, it is not coincidence, it is divine interception. Something in the spiritual realm pulled you here, because Wednesday carries a frequency so powerful, so cinematically orchestrated, that even the angels are leaning in to watch what unfolds in your life. You've been walking through days that felt grey, repetitive, where nothing seemed to move forward. But Wednesday? Wednesday carries light. It carries color. It carries the electric tension of a climax that's been building in the unseen realm while you've been waiting, wondering if God forgot your address. Listen carefully. This Wednesday has been divinely timed. It is not just another page on the calendar. It is a threshold, a marker, a symbolic turning of the wheel where whispers become roars, where delays become divine appointments, where the ordinary suddenly becomes extraordinary. You may already feel something stirring, strange signs, sudden insights, dreams that feel more real than your waking hours. That restlessness in your chest, that's not anxiety, that's anticipation. Your spirit is already sensing what your mind hasn't yet understood. Change has entered your atmosphere, and Wednesday will make it undeniable. Something is about to unfold in your life that will feel too precise to be coincidence, too perfectly timed to be random, too cinematically orchestrated to be anything other than the hand of the Almighty Himself writing your next scene. Stay with me, because by the end of this word, you will know exactly why your soul has been stirring, why your nights have been restless, and why Wednesday will leave you telling others, "You wouldn't believe it if I told you." Before we journey deeper into this prophetic word together, I want to pause and thank every single one of you who has supported this message through super thanks. Your generosity means more than you know. You're not just donating, you're sowing seeds into a harvest that will feed hungry souls across this nation. Whether you give or not, I'm deeply grateful for your presence here. Your support, your time, your attention, it all matters. And if this message resonates with your soul, go ahead and let the Holy Spirit lead your heart. Right now, if your spirit is already stirring, if something deep inside you recognizes the weight of this moment, I need you to type 999 in the comments below. This isn't superstition. This is spiritual alignment. This is you telling heaven, I'm ready for what you're about to do. Let's see who else God is awakening for this Wednesday that will change everything. The cameras of destiny are rolling, chosen one, and your scene is about to begin. How many nights have you sat in that same chair, staring at walls that hold more memories than hope? How many mornings have you woken up, wondering if this is all there is, if the dreams you once carried have become nothing more than echoes in an empty house? How many times have you whispered prayers into the darkness, only to be met with silence so profound it felt like abandonment? Dear one, I see you there. I see you in that quiet living room where the phone rarely rings anymore. I see you at that kitchen table where you eat meals alone, remembering when that same table was surrounded by laughter, by children who couldn't wait to tell you about their day. I see you in those long afternoons when time moves like molasses, and you wonder if anyone would even notice if you weren't here tomorrow. The loneliness cuts deeper than arthritis, doesn't it? The silence echoes louder than any noise ever could. You've become an expert at filling empty hours with television shows that don't really matter, with routines that feel more like survival than living. The highlight of your week might be a trip to the grocery store just to hear another human voice say, paper or plastic. But here's what breaks my heart the most. You've been carrying regrets like stones in your chest. Regrets about words you never said, chances you never took, relationships you never mended. You replay conversations from 30 years ago, wondering if you could have done things differently. You look at photographs of younger versions of yourself and wonder where that person went, what happened to their fire, their dreams, their certainty that life held something magnificent. And the prayers. Oh, the prayers you've whispered for decades. Prayers for your children who stopped calling as often as they used to. Prayers for grandchildren who seem to live in a world you don't understand. Prayers for your health, for your finances, for just one sign that God still remembers your name. You've prayed until your knees wore out, until your voice grew hoarse, until the ceiling felt like concrete and heaven seemed a million miles away. The silence of God has become a wound that won't heal, hasn't it? Not the peaceful quiet of his presence, but the deafening absence that makes you wonder if you did something wrong, if you're being punished, if he's moved on to younger, more useful servants. You've been faithful for 70, 80, maybe 90 years, and sometimes you wonder if it was all for nothing. Your life has felt like watching a black and white film where nothing moves. Scene after scene of the same routine, the same struggles, the same quiet desperation. The color drained out somewhere along the way, and you can't remember when. Days blend into weeks, weeks into months, and the story feels stuck, frozen, as if the projectionist fell asleep and the same frame keeps playing over and over. You wake up, take your medications, watch the news, eat your simple meals, and go to bed, only to repeat it all tomorrow. The excitement you once felt about life has been replaced by a dull acceptance that this is just how it is now. The dreams you had in your 20s feel like they belong to someone else entirely. The passion you once carried seems as distant as childhood memories. But listen to me carefully, chosen one. Every great film has moments where everything changes, where the music swells, where the scene shifts from black and white to brilliant color, where the story that seemed stuck suddenly explodes with movement and meaning. That's exactly what's happening this Wednesday. What you've been calling waiting, God has been calling preparation. What you've labeled as punishment, heaven has marked as positioning. What feels like abandonment has actually been divine protection, keeping you hidden until the exact moment when your story was meant to unfold. Moses was 80 years old, 80, when God met him at that burning bush and said, "Now you're ready." Noah preached for 120 years before the first drop of rain fell. Abraham waited 25 years between the promise and Isaac's birth. Your waiting hasn't been wasted, dear one. It's been working. Every tear you've cried in secret has been collected in heaven's bottles. Every prayer you thought went unheard has been stored in golden bowls before the throne. Every moment you felt forgotten has been recorded in the books of remembrance. Psalm 56:8 promises, "You have collected all my tears in your bottle. You have recorded each one in your book." The delays haven't been denials, they've been divine timing. The silence hasn't been abandonment. It's been sacred preparation. Your life hasn't been a black and white film. It's been the quiet scenes before the climax, the character development before the breakthrough, the setup before the story explodes with purpose. This Wednesday, the music is about to swell. The scene is about to shift. The story that felt stuck for so long is about to move with such force, such clarity, such undeniable direction, that you'll finally understand why you had to wait so long, why the timing couldn't have been any earlier, why your patient faithfulness was building something so magnificent that it required decades of preparation to hold it. Right now, if something in your spirit is stirring, if these words are hitting places in your heart you thought were numb, I need you to whisper it aloud. Don't just think it. Speak it into the atmosphere. Say these words. My waiting was not wasted. Say it until you feel it. Say it until you believe it. Because Wednesday is about to prove it true. But before we step into what's about to unfold, you need to understand something that will change how you see everything that's happened to you. But here's what the enemy doesn't want you to know about this Wednesday. Here's the truth that hell has been working overtime to hide from you for decades. You think you're just getting older. You think your best days are behind you. You think at 65, 70, 80 years old, you're supposed to settle into the background, fade quietly into retirement, and accept that your time of significance has passed. That's the biggest lie ever whispered in your ear. Listen to me carefully, chosen one. This Wednesday isn't just another day in your golden years. This Wednesday is your biblical turning point, and I can prove it to you with the very word of God. Look at Joseph. 13 years, 13 long years he sat in that prison cell, forgotten by everyone except the God who had given him dreams of greatness. 13 years of watching other prisoners come and go while he remained, wondering if God had abandoned him. At 30 years old, he probably felt like life had passed him by, like his dreams were dead and buried in that Egyptian dungeon. But Genesis 41-14 records what happened next. Then Pharaoh sent and called Joseph, and they brought him hastily out of the pit, hastily. In one morning, Joseph went from forgotten prisoner to second in command of the most powerful nation on earth. One conversation with Pharaoh changed everything. Not gradually, not over years. In one divinely orchestrated moment, his entire reality shifted. You think that was coincidence? You think that timing was random? Or consider Moses. 80 years old. 80 years of thinking he was done, finished, past his prime. For 40 years, he lived as a prince in Egypt. For another 40 years, he tended sheep in the wilderness, probably telling himself every morning, I had my chance, and I blew it. God has moved on to someone younger, someone better. But Exodus 3-4 declares, when the Lord saw that he went over to look, God called to him from within the bush, Moses, Moses. At 80 years old, Moses received the greatest calling in human history, not despite his age because of it. God needed someone who had been broken enough, tested enough, humbled enough to carry the weight of delivering an entire nation. And Anna, oh, beloved Anna. Luke 2:37 tells us she was 84 years old, spending day and night in the temple, praying, fasting, waiting. For decades, she watched thousands of babies brought to the temple for dedication. Year after year, decade after decade, she waited for the promised Messiah while others whispered behind her back. Poor old Anna, still waiting for something that will never come. But when Mary and Joseph walked through those temple doors carrying baby Jesus, it was Anna, not the young mothers, not the powerful priests, not the religious leaders in their prime. It was 84-year-old Anna who immediately recognized the Christ child and became the first evangelist of the gospel. Do you see the pattern? Do you understand what God is showing you? Your years of silence weren't punishment. They were preparation. Your years of feeling forgotten weren't abandonment. They were refinement. Your years of thinking it was too late weren't evidence of God's absence. They were evidence of His perfect timing. And this Wednesday is your moment when heaven says, enough waiting, enough wondering, enough believing the lie that your season is over. It's time. But here's where it cuts deep, chosen one. Here's where this word hits your soul like a lightning bolt. How many nights have you laid in that bed, staring at the ceiling, whispering, God, I feel like I'm just taking up space. My children don't need me anymore. The world has moved on without me. What's the point of still being here? How many mornings have you looked in the mirror and seen only what you've lost instead of what you've gained? How many times have you watched the news, seen the chaos in this world, and felt helpless because you believed you were too old, too tired, too insignificant to make a difference? Those thoughts didn't come from heaven. Those whispers came straight from the pit of hell, because the enemy knows something about you that you've forgotten about yourself. You carry something this generation desperately needs: your wisdom, your prayers, your tested faith, your proven resilience. The young people are drowning in confusion, but you've walked through storms they can't even imagine. They're searching for meaning in all the wrong places, but you know where true purpose is found. The devil has been working overtime to convince you that your time is over, because he's terrified of what happens when you finally remember who you are. This Wednesday breaks that deception forever. Your pain wasn't pointless, it was prophetic. Every tear you cried in secret was watering seeds of compassion that are about to bloom. Every betrayal that broke your heart was teaching you discernment that will protect others. Every financial struggle that kept you awake at night was building trust in God's provision that will inspire a generation. Your scars weren't accidents. They were the script heaven was writing for your greatest scene. And now the cameras of eternity are rolling on your moment. But you have to make a choice. You can either step into this Wednesday believing you're past your prime, or you can walk into it knowing you're entering your finest hour. You can either accept the lie that your best days are behind you, or you can embrace the truth that God saves the best wine for last. Joseph had to choose to interpret Pharaoh's dream instead of staying safe in his cell. Moses had to choose to approach the burning bush instead of walking away in fear. Anna had to choose to speak boldly about the Christ child instead of staying silent in the corner. This Wednesday, you will face the same choice. When that phone rings, when that opportunity presents itself, when that door opens that's been locked for years, will you step through it, or will you let fear convince you that it's too good to be true? If you feel your heart pounding right now, if something deep in your spirit is confirming these words, if you know beyond doubt that Wednesday is your turning point, then declare it. Say it out loud wherever you are. This is my turning point. Because, chosen one, the silence is about to break, the waiting is about to end, and the scene you've been rehearsing your entire life is about to begin. But what exactly is God about to release through you? What specific change is heading straight for your Wednesday that will leave you breathless with wonder? You've been feeling it, haven't you? Those strange moments that make you pause in the middle of your day and wonder if something bigger is moving in your life. Maybe it was that dream 3 nights ago that felt more real than your waking hours. Maybe it was the way that song came on the radio at the exact moment you needed to hear it. Maybe it was running into someone you hadn't seen in 20 years, right when you were thinking about them. Dear one, those weren't coincidences. Those were previews. Every great film releases trailers months before the feature presentation. Short glimpses. Powerful scenes, just enough to make you lean forward and whisper, "I have to see this." Heaven operates the same way. For weeks, maybe months, God has been showing you trailers of what's coming this Wednesday. But I know what happened next. Your logical mind kicked in. You dismissed those moments. You called them wishful thinking. You convinced yourself you were reading too much into ordinary events. Maybe you even felt foolish for believing that God would speak to you through dreams, through timing, through the sacred choreography of daily life. Listen to me carefully. When Pharaoh had those dreams about the 7 fat cows and 7 lean cows, everyone around him tried to explain them away. Just dreams, they said. Just the mind processing stress. But Joseph knew better. In Genesis 41-32, he told Pharaoh, the dream was given to Pharaoh in 2 forms because the matter has been firmly decided by God, and God will do it soon. Soon. Not someday. Soon. Those signs you've been receiving aren't your imagination running wild. They're heaven's way of preparing you for what's about to manifest. The same God who spoke to Joseph through Pharaoh's dreams has been speaking to you through your circumstances, your encounters, your inexplicable moments of knowing. You think it's strange that you keep waking up at 3:17 a.m. That's not insomnia. That's appointment time with the Almighty. You think it's coincidence that the same scripture keeps appearing everywhere you look. That's not random. That's God downloading His word directly into your spirit, preparing you for Wednesday's revelation. But maybe you've been hurt too many times. Maybe you've gotten your hopes up before, only to watch them crumble. Maybe you're tired of believing in breakthrough that never seems to come. I understand that. After decades of living, after watching promises delayed and dreams deferred, the heart learns to protect itself by expecting less. But what if I told you that every delay, every disappointment, every moment you felt forgotten was actually God's perfect timing in disguise? Think about Abraham. God promised him a son when he was 75 years old. Can you imagine? 75. But Isaac wasn't born until Abraham was 100. 25 years of waiting. 25 years of Sarah laughing at the impossibility. 25 years of wondering if they heard God correctly. But Genesis 21:2 declares, Sarah became pregnant and bore a son to Abraham in his old age, at the very time God had promised him. At the very time. Not early, not late. At the very time. Your Wednesday has been scheduled since before time began. Every year you've lived, every trial you've endured, every mountain you've climbed has been preparation for this exact moment when heaven's timing and earth's reality collide. The enemy wants you to believe you've missed your season. He whispers that you're too old, too tired, too damaged. But Moses was 80 when he parted the Red Sea. Anna the prophetess was 84 when she recognized baby Jesus in the temple. Sarah was 90 when she birthed nations. Your birth certificate is not your expiration date. Right now, in the invisible realm, angels are positioning themselves around your life. Doors that have been sealed for decades are creaking open. Resources that seemed blocked are being redirected toward you. People who need to be in your path are being strategically placed. The stage is being set for Wednesday's performance. But here's what will shock you most. This isn't just about you receiving blessing. This Wednesday, you will become someone else's miracle. The breakthrough coming your way isn't just for your relief, it's for your assignment. God is about to use you in ways you never imagined possible. In Luke 4:18, Jesus declared, "The Spirit of the Lord is on me, because he has anointed me to proclaim good news to the poor. He has sent me to proclaim freedom for the prisoners and recovery of sight for the blind, to set the oppressed free." That same anointing is being activated in you this Wednesday. You're not just receiving freedom, you're being commissioned to distribute it. Do you feel that weight settling on your shoulders? That's not burden, that's authority. That's the mantle of someone heaven trusts to carry breakthrough into a broken world. Your decades of struggle weren't wasted, they were your theological education. Your years of pain weren't punishment, they were your ministry credentials. This Wednesday, doors will open that no man can shut. Clarity will strike your mind like lightning illuminating a dark sky. Conversations will happen that redirect your entire trajectory. Opportunities will present themselves that you never saw coming. You will witness God move in your life so undeniably that even skeptics will have no choice but to acknowledge his hand. But you must be ready to recognize it. You must be prepared to step through those doors when they swing open. You must have the courage to embrace the clarity when it comes, even if it challenges everything you thought you knew about your limitations. The same Jesus who told the paralyzed man, "Take up your bed and walk," is telling you right now, "Take up your dreams and run." The same God who told Moses, "Throw down your staff," is asking you, "What's in your hand that I can use to work miracles?" I need you to do something prophetic right now. Get a pen and paper. Write down today's date and this Wednesday's date. Under Wednesday's date, write these words: "This will be the day I mark forever, the day everything changed, the day heaven invaded earth in my life." That piece of paper isn't just a note, it's a covenant. It's your agreement with destiny. It's your declaration that you will not let Wednesday pass by unnoticed, unrecognized, unappreciated. Because, chosen one, some moments in life are so sacred, so divinely orchestrated, that they deserve to be remembered forever. This Wednesday is one of those moments. And the question that will determine everything is this: will you be ready to step into the scene heaven has been preparing for you? Chosen one, I need you to stop everything you're doing right now and listen to what I'm about to declare over your life. Because what I'm about to tell you is going to shatter every wall of delay that has held you captive for decades. Change is not coming. Change has come. Do you hear me? Change is not approaching like some distant storm on the horizon. Change has already entered your atmosphere. It's already moving through your bloodline. It's already shifting the spiritual climate around your life. And this Wednesday, this divinely appointed Wednesday, is when you will feel it crash into your reality with the force of heaven itself. You've been waiting for a sign. You've been praying for a breakthrough. You've been crying out for evidence that God hasn't forgotten your address. Well, here's your evidence. You didn't find this message by accident. You didn't stumble across these words by chance. The Holy Spirit intercepted your scroll, arrested your attention, and positioned you to hear what heaven is declaring over your Wednesday. This is not coincidence. This is not chance. This is not random. This is destiny. This is the sound of spiritual dominoes falling in perfect sequence. This is the orchestration of divine timing that's been building momentum for months, for years, for decades. Every delay you've endured was actually positioning you for this exact moment when the breakthrough would be so powerful, so undeniable, so cinematically perfect, that even your doubters will have to acknowledge the hand of God on your life. But let me ask you something that's going to cut deep. How long have you been circling the same mountain? How many years have you been staring at the same impossible walls? How many nights have you fallen asleep wondering if this is all there is, if your story ends with struggle instead of victory? Listen carefully, because I'm about to show you something that will change how you see this Wednesday forever. In Joshua chapter 6, the Israelites circled the walls of Jericho for 7 days. 7 days of walking the same path, seeing the same obstacles, facing the same impossibilities. Can you imagine what they felt on day 6? The doubt creeping in. Are we just walking in circles? Has God forgotten us? Maybe this isn't going to work. But Joshua knew something they didn't understand yet. God's timing is never early, and it's never late. It's always precisely perfect. For 6 days, those walls looked exactly the same. Nothing had changed, nothing had moved, nothing had cracked. But on the seventh day, they shouted. And those walls didn't just fall, beloved. They collapsed. They didn't crumble slowly. They didn't chip away piece by piece. In one supernatural moment, what had stood for generations was completely obliterated. Your Wednesday is your 7th day. That financial struggle that's haunted your family for 3 generations, that's your Jericho wall, and it's about to fall. That loneliness that's been eating at your soul since your spouse went home to glory, that's your Jericho wall, and Wednesday is its collapse moment. That health battle that doctors can't explain and medicine can't fix, that's your Jericho wall, and heaven has already signed the demolition order. But here's what's going to shock you. The walls of Jericho didn't fall because of the marching. They fell because of the shout. They fell because after 6 days of silent obedience, the people finally opened their mouths and declared what God had already promised. The atmosphere around you is shifting right now. Can you feel it? That electric tension in the air, that sense that something monumental is about to break loose. What once was closed will burst open. What once was delayed will suddenly accelerate. What once seemed impossible will become inevitable. You will not return to yesterday. Do you understand what that means? This Wednesday isn't just a good day that you'll remember fondly. This Wednesday is a point of no return, a spiritual threshold that, once crossed, changes your entire trajectory. The person who wakes up Thursday morning will not be the same person who went to sleep Tuesday night. The atmosphere around your life will have shifted so dramatically that even strangers will sense something different about you. Financial doors that have been rusted shut for decades will creak open with supernatural ease. Relationships that seemed impossible to restore will experience miraculous healing. Health reports that looked terminal will suddenly show improvement that makes doctors scratch their heads and whisper about miracles they can't explain. This is not wishful thinking. This is prophetic declaration. This is not motivational speaking. This is divine intelligence downloaded straight from the throne room of heaven. But I need you to understand something crucial. The enemy knows what time it is. He recognizes Wednesday's significance, and he's already mobilizing his forces to convince you this word isn't for you. He's whispering lies right now. You're too old. You've missed your window. If God was going to move, he would have done it already. Those are lies from the pit of hell. Moses was 80 when God called him to deliver a nation. Abraham was 99 when God opened Sarah's womb. Anna was 84 when she prophesied over baby Jesus. Your age isn't your limitation, it's your qualification. Every year you've lived, every tear you've cried, every mountain you've climbed has been preparing you for Wednesday's explosion of favor. The walls are falling. Can you hear them cracking? Can you feel the ground trembling beneath the weight of supernatural intervention? This is your moment to stop whispering your prayers and start shouting your declarations. If you can feel it, if your spirit is already responding to Wednesday's frequency, I need you to type, "The walls are falling," in the comments right now. This isn't just engagement. This is spiritual warfare. This is you agreeing with heaven's decree over your life. This is your shout that brings down every wall that's kept you bound. But what happens when the walls fall? What comes after the breakthrough? That's where Wednesday's scene shift becomes not just personal transformation, but generational liberation. Chosen one, when the credits roll on Wednesday, you won't be the same person who started watching this message. Something fundamental will have shifted in the core of who you are. The old you, the one who questioned if God still had plans for your life, that version of yourself will have walked off the stage forever. But here's what breaks my heart about so many beautiful souls like you. The world has been whispering lies about your expiration date. They've convinced you that at 65, 70, 80, your story is winding down, that your impact is diminishing, that your best chapters are locked away in yesterday's memories. That is a demonic deception, straight from the pit of hell. Listen to what the Almighty declares in Psalm 92:14. They will still bear fruit in old age. They will stay fresh and green. Did you catch that? Fresh and green. Not withering, not fading, not forgotten. At the very season when society expects you to retreat, God promises you will flourish. Your gray hair isn't a sign of decline, it's a crown of wisdom. Every wrinkle tells a story of battles fought and victories won. Every slow step carries the weight of decades walking with the divine. You are not past your prime, beloved. You are entering your power. Wednesday's cinematic moment isn't your final scene, it's the opening credits of Act 2. The part of your story where everything you've learned, every tear you've shed, every prayer you've whispered in the dark becomes the foundation for something so magnificent that heaven itself has been holding its breath, waiting for this moment. Think about Moses, 80 years old when God called him from the burning bush. 80. The world would have put him in a retirement home, but God was just getting started with him. For the next 40 years, Moses would part seas, speak with the Almighty face to face, and lead millions into their promised land. Think about Sarah, 90 years old when she birthed nations. 90. Her womb was dead, her hope was buried, but God's promise was alive. And when Isaac was born, she didn't just become a mother, she became the matriarch of eternity. Right now, as these words wash over your spirit, something ancient is stirring inside you. That dream you buried at 40 because life got too hard, it's breathing again. That calling you silenced at 60 because people said you were too old, it's roaring back to life. That fire you thought was extinguished by years of disappointment, it's about to become a blaze that lights up the darkness around you. But I need you to understand something that will revolutionize how you see your remaining years. You think you've been waiting for God to remember you, but God has been waiting for you to remember who you are. Every season of silence was building your authority. Every closed door was protecting you from settling for less than His best. Every delay was divine preparation for a moment so powerful that if it had come earlier, you wouldn't have been ready to handle it. Wednesday's shift isn't just about you receiving something. It's about you becoming someone. Someone who carries the fragrance of eternity. Someone whose very presence shifts atmospheres. Someone whose words carry weight because they've been refined in the furnace of real life. The enemy knows what's about to happen. That's why he's been working overtime to convince you that your time has passed. That's why the attacks on your health, your finances, your peace have been so intense lately. He sees what's coming, a senior saint stepping into their full authority, and it terrifies him. Because when someone your age finally remembers they're not just surviving but assigned, when they stop apologizing for taking up space and start occupying their territory, when they quit whispering their wisdom and start declaring it with divine authority, hell trembles. Your children may not understand the shift they see in you. Your friends might wonder why you seem different. But that's because they're witnessing a resurrection. The person you were always meant to be is rising from the grave of what if and if only, and it's too late. This Wednesday marks the end of your rehearsal and the beginning of your performance. Every tear was preparation, every trial was training, every setback was set up for this moment when heaven says, now is your time. But here's what you must understand, this transformation requires your participation. Wednesday will present opportunities, but you must seize them. Doors will open, but you must walk through them. Conversations will begin, but you must engage with courage. The old you might have hesitated, questioned, waited for someone else to go first. But the you that emerges from Wednesday's encounter will move with the confidence of someone who knows they're backed by the Creator of the universe. Your best years aren't behind you, they're ahead of you. Your greatest impact isn't in your past, it's in your future. Your most powerful prayers haven't been prayed yet. Your deepest influence hasn't been felt yet. Your most important conversations haven't happened yet. Wednesday is the hinge between who you were and who you're becoming. And what you're becoming will astonish even you. So I'm asking you to do something right now that will seal this prophetic word over your life. In the comments below, type these 3 powerful words. I receive it. Not as a hope, not as a wish, as a declaration, as a spiritual contract between you and heaven. And when Wednesday unfolds exactly as I've prophesied, when the signs appear, when the doors open, when the shift becomes undeniable, come back here and tell us what God did. Share your testimony. Let this community of chosen ones celebrate with you. Share this video with someone who needs to remember they're not finished, someone whose fire has dimmed, someone who needs to know that God saves the best wine for last. The credits aren't rolling on your story, beloved. They're just beginning, and what comes next will be your finest performance yet. Chosen one, what if I told you every scene of your life was already written in the invisible script of heaven? What if every heartbreak, every hospital room, every funeral you've attended, every sleepless night you've endured at 3 in the morning wondering if anyone cared? What if none of it was random? You've been living your life believing some chapters were mistakes. That divorce that shattered your heart at 57, you called it failure. That business that collapsed when you were 63, you labeled it defeat. Those children who stopped calling, you whispered it was your fault. But listen to me, dear one. You've been reading your story wrong. Ecclesiastes 3:1 declares, to everything there is a season, and a time to every purpose under heaven. Every purpose. Not some purposes, not the pretty purposes. Every single scene that's played out in your 70, 80, 90 years of living has been scripted with divine intention. Think about your favorite film. Did the hero's journey begin with victory? Number. It began with loss, with struggle, with moments that seemed to lead nowhere. But every scene, every painful, confusing, seemingly senseless scene was building toward something magnificent. That's your life, chosen one. Not wasted, not random, not meaningless, but preparation. Every heartbreak was a rehearsal, every tear was an edit, every silent prayer you whispered into your pillow was a soundtrack waiting to rise. You thought you were just surviving those moments, but heaven was filming them, recording them, weaving them into a masterpiece that's about to be revealed. Remember Job, the man who lost everything, his children, his wealth, his health. For 37 chapters, it looked like a tragedy. His friends told him he was cursed. His wife told him to curse God and die. But God was writing something deeper. Job 42:10 tells us, the Lord restored Job's losses when he prayed for his friends. Indeed, the Lord gave Job twice as much as he had before, Twice as much. Not just restoration, multiplication. That hospital bed you lay in 5 years ago, wondering if you'd see another Christmas, that was Act 1 of your comeback story. That funeral where you buried your spouse of 43 years, that was the scene where you learned what real love meant. That bankruptcy that left you eating beans from a can at 72 years old, that was your wilderness training for the abundance that's coming. You see, in Hollywood, they call it the rehearsal room. It's where actors practice their lines over and over until they know them by heart, where they work through the difficult scenes until they can perform them flawlessly when the cameras roll. Your life has been one giant rehearsal room, and Wednesday is opening night. Every time you wanted to give up but didn't, that was rehearsing resilience. Every time someone betrayed you but you chose forgiveness, that was rehearsing grace. Every time you had 99 reasons to doubt but held on to that one reason to believe, that was rehearsing faith. The invisible script is now visible. Wednesday is not just another day on your calendar. It is the premiere of everything heaven has been preparing you for. Isaiah 46:10 declares, I make known the end from the beginning, from ancient times, what is still to come. God saw your Wednesday before you took your first breath. He saw you reading these words. He saw the tears that would form in your eyes when you finally understood that your story wasn't broken, it was being built. But here's what's going to shock you. The same God who scripted your trials also scripted your triumph. The same hand that allowed the pain also authored the breakthrough. And Wednesday is when the invisible becomes visible, when the background music finally swells, when the lights come up and you realize you weren't just surviving, you were starring. You think those lonely nights were punishment. They were preparation for the intimacy with God you now carry. You think that financial struggle was failure. It was training for the stewardship of the abundance that's coming. You think those health battles were defeat. They were dress rehearsals for the healing testimony you're about to walk in. Jeremiah 29:11 promises, For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, to give you hope and a future. Plans, not plan, plans. Plural, multiple acts, multiple scenes, all building toward a finale that will leave you breathless. The enemy wanted you to believe your story was over. He whispered that your best chapters were behind you, that God was done using people your age, that you should just quietly fade into the background. But that's not how divine screenplays work. In God's films, the most powerful scenes happen in the final act. When Moses was 80, God said, Now you're ready to lead my people. When Sarah was 90, heaven said, Now you're ready to birth nations. When Anna the prophetess was 84, the Messiah himself was placed in her arms. Your age isn't your limitation, it's your qualification. Your scars aren't your shame, they're your script. Your story isn't ending, it's about to reach its most magnificent climax. Every scene has been leading to this Wednesday. Every prayer, every tear, every time you almost gave up but held on, it's all been building toward this moment when heaven opens the script and shows you that nothing, absolutely nothing, was wasted. The rehearsal is over, chosen one, the cameras are rolling, and you're about to discover why you had to walk through every single scene to get to this one. But are you ready for what happens when the invisible script finally becomes visible, when your Wednesday premiere arrives? Listen to me carefully, chosen one. What you've been calling your worst years, what you've labeled as your darkest seasons, what you've whispered about in shame when no one was listening, that wasn't your collapse. That was your combat training. You think the enemy attacked you randomly. You think those sleepless nights at 3 a.m., staring at bills you couldn't pay, were just bad luck. You think that diagnosis that shook your world was coincidence. You think your own children turning their backs on you when you needed them most was just family drama. No, beloved. You were under targeted assault. The devil doesn't waste ammunition on nobodies. Satan doesn't deploy his most vicious demons against people who pose no threat. But you? You've been in his crosshairs since the day you took your first breath, because hell saw what heaven placed inside you before you even knew it existed. Every financial crisis that should have destroyed you, that was warfare. Every health scare that should have taken you out, that was a calculated attack. Every betrayal from people you trusted most, that was strategic sabotage, designed to make you give up on your calling before you ever understood what it was. But look at you now, still here, still breathing, still believing. Do you understand what that makes you? It makes you dangerous to the kingdom of darkness. Think about David, standing in that valley with nothing but a slingshot, while Goliath towered 9 feet above him. Every voice around him screamed defeat. His own king tried to dress him in armor that didn't fit. His brothers mocked his audacity. The odds weren't just against him, they were impossible. But David had something Goliath didn't see coming. David carried the anointing of the Most High God, and when that stone left his sling, it flew with the velocity of heaven itself. One shot, one moment, game over. You too have faced your Goliath, haven't you? That addiction that towered over your family for 3 generations, that depression that whispered you'd never be free, that poverty that convinced you God had forgotten your address, that loneliness that made you question if anyone would even notice if you were gone. Still standing, still breathing, still chosen. Consider Esther, walking into the throne room without an invitation, knowing that one wrong move could cost her life. The king hadn't called for her. The law said she could die for approaching uninvited, but an entire nation hung in the balance, and silence would have meant genocide for her people. She could have stayed quiet. She could have played it safe. She could have said, "I'm just one woman. What difference can I make?" But instead, she said words that echo through eternity. "If I perish, I perish." How many times have you had to walk into rooms where you weren't welcome? How many times have you had to speak truth when silence would have been easier? How many times have you had to stand alone, knowing that your voice might be the only one willing to break the deadly quiet? Still standing, still breathing, still chosen. Look at Daniel, surrounded by lions that should have torn him apart. The king who threw him into that den couldn't even sleep, pacing his palace floors all night, wondering if Daniel would survive until morning. But when dawn broke and the stone was rolled away, there stood Daniel, not a scratch on him, not even the smell of the den on his clothes. Why? Because when you're marked by the Almighty, even predators recognize divine protection. You've been in your lion's den, haven't you? Surrounded by people who wanted to devour your dreams, your peace, your very soul. Co-workers who tried to destroy your reputation. Family members who spoke death over your destiny. So-called friends who celebrated your failures and resented your victories. But you're still here. The lions couldn't touch what God has covered. Still standing, still breathing, still chosen. Here's what breaks my heart about some of you watching this right now. You've survived battles that would have destroyed ordinary people, yet you still see yourself as a victim instead of a victor. You've walked through fires that should have consumed you, yet you focus on the scorch marks instead of the miracle that you emerged at all. You think your scars are signs of defeat, but those scars are proof that you went to war with hell itself and lived to tell about it. Every wound is evidence that the enemy tried his best to take you out and failed. Every tear you've cried is testimony that you felt the full weight of the battle, but refused to surrender. The cancer that was supposed to kill you, you're still here. The divorce that was supposed to break you, you're still here. The addiction that was supposed to destroy 3 generations of your bloodline, you broke the cycle. You're still here. What you thought was your ending was actually the trailer for your greatest victory. The enemy showed his hand too early. He revealed how desperately he wanted you gone, how terrified he was of what you'd become if you ever fully awakened to who you are. Every attack was actually confirmation of your calling. Every assault was proof of your anointing. But now I need you to do something that might feel uncomfortable. I need you to stop seeing yourself as someone who barely survived and start recognizing yourself as someone who conquered. Stop identifying with your wounds and start walking in your victory. Right now, wherever you are in your living room, your kitchen, your car, I want you to place your hand over your heart. Feel that beating. That's not just circulation, beloved. That's the sound of a warrior's heart that refused to quit when quitting would have been easier. Now I want you to say these words out loud. Don't think about it. Don't analyze it. Just speak it into the atmosphere. I survived the battle because I was chosen. Say it again. Louder this time. I survived the battle because I was chosen. One more time. With the authority of someone who has walked through hell and came out carrying heaven's fire. I survived the battle because I was chosen. Do you feel that shift in your chest? That's not emotion, that's recognition. Your spirit remembering what your mind tried to forget. You are not a casualty of spiritual warfare. You are a decorated veteran who earned your stripes in combat with principalities and powers. But here's what the enemy never counted on, and here's why this Wednesday will feel like a film. The same God who protected you through the battle is about to promote you because of it. Listen to me, chosen one. This Wednesday is not on man's calendar. It is written in heaven's ledger. While the world sees December dates and winter schedules, the spiritual realm sees something entirely different, a divine appointment that has been sealed in eternity, waiting for this exact moment in your life. You want to know why you've felt so restless lately? Why sleep has been elusive? Why your spirit has been stirring with an unnamed anticipation? Because your soul already knows what your mind is just beginning to understand. Wednesday carries the weight of destiny, and your inner being has been preparing for what's about to unfold. Think about this for a moment. When was the last time you felt truly alive? When was the last time you woke up knowing, absolutely knowing, that something extraordinary was about to happen? For too many of you, that feeling has been buried under years of disappointment, under the weight of dreams that seemed to die, under the crushing reality of prayers that appeared to go unanswered. But what if I told you that every unanswered prayer, every delayed promise, every moment you felt forgotten was actually heaven holding back your blessing until the perfect cinematic moment? What if Wednesday is that moment? Scripture declares in Ecclesiastes 3:1, "To everything there is a season, and a time to every purpose under heaven." Your season of waiting is ending. Your time of purpose is beginning. And Wednesday, this Wednesday, is the hinge upon which your entire story turns. Picture this with me. Imagine you're sitting in the most magnificent theater you've ever seen. The seats are plush velvet, the walls adorned with gold, and you can feel the electricity in the air. The lights begin to dim. The curtain trembles with anticipation. The orchestra falls silent. And in that sacred pause between what was and what's about to be, you hear it, your name being called. Not whispered, not suggested, called with the authority of heaven itself. That is Wednesday, dear one. That is the threshold you're about to cross. This is not routine masquerading as significance. This is not ordinary disguised as special. This is threshold, not routine. Premiere, not ordinary. Breakthrough, not accident. The very atmosphere around your life is shifting, and those who know how to discern spiritual seasons can feel it building like a storm front moving across the plains. But here's what breaks my heart. Too many of God's chosen ones have been conditioned to expect disappointment. You've been hurt so many times that you've built walls around your hope. You've been let down so often that you've learned to whisper your prayers instead of declaring them. You've been waiting so long that you've started believing the lie that your time has passed. Stop believing that lie. Moses was 80 when God called him from a burning bush. Sarah was 90 when she conceived Isaac. Abraham was 75 when he left everything familiar to follow a promise he couldn't see. Your age is not your limitation, it's your qualification. Your years are not counting down, they're counting up to this moment, when wisdom meets opportunity, when experience meets divine timing, when your prepared heart finally meets your appointed hour. The enemy has been whispering lies about your relevance, about your usefulness, about whether God still has plans for someone like you. But listen to what the Almighty declares in Jeremiah 29:11. "For I know the plans I have for you, Plans to prosper you and not to harm you, to give you hope and a future. Present tense, active plans, current intentions. God hasn't moved on from you. He's been preparing you for Wednesday. Can you feel it building? That electric anticipation that makes your chest tight and your spirit restless. That's not anxiety, beloved. That's your spirit recognizing the frequency of breakthrough. Your inner being already knows what Wednesday holds, and it's trying to prepare you for the magnitude of what's coming. This Wednesday, the spotlight is not on yesterday's pain, it is on tomorrow's promise. The curtain is not closing on your story, it's opening on your greatest act. The lights are not dimming on your purpose, they're illuminating the stage where you've been called to perform. Every rejection that stung, every door that slammed, every dream that seemed to die, they were not the end of your story. They were intermission. They were the pause between acts, the silence before the symphony, the darkness before the dawn. And Wednesday? Wednesday is when the lights come up and the world sees what God has been preparing in the shadows. You've been rehearsing for this moment your entire life. Every trial taught you resilience. Every heartbreak deepened your compassion. Every loss expanded your capacity to receive. Every year you've lived has been adding layers of wisdom, strength, and authority that you'll need for what's ahead. The threshold is not just a doorway, dear one, it's a portal. It's the place where the natural meets the supernatural, where the ordinary intersects with the extraordinary, where your human limitations collide with God's unlimited possibilities. And Wednesday, this Wednesday, you're going to step through that portal into a reality you've only dreamed of. But stepping through requires courage. It requires you to leave behind the familiar territory of your struggles and venture into the unknown landscape of your destiny. Are you ready to stop being comfortable with limitation and start getting uncomfortable with possibility? Right now, I need you to do something prophetic. I need you to type Wednesday's date in the comments below, followed by these words: "This is my threshold," not as a wish, not as a hope, as a declaration, as a prophetic timestamp that heaven will recognize and respond to. Because, chosen one, the curtain is rising, the lights are coming up, and your name is being called to step onto the stage of your destiny. But here's what most people don't understand about divine breakthrough. Chosen one. What begins on Wednesday will not end on Wednesday. It will ripple like waves across the ocean of your destiny, each wave bigger than the last, each surge carrying you further from the shore of your old life into waters you never dared to navigate. You see, God doesn't work in isolated moments. He works in movements. He doesn't give you single blessings. He unleashes sequences of favor that build upon each other like a symphony reaching its crescendo. Wednesday isn't just a day. It's the first domino in a chain reaction that will transform the next 7 days of your life into something that feels more like a miracle than reality. Think about Jericho. For 6 days, the Israelites marched around those massive walls in silence. 6 days of the same routine, the same path, the same seemingly impossible barriers towering above them. But on the seventh day, everything changed. The walls didn't just crack, beloved. They didn't slowly crumble. They fell completely, instantly, supernaturally. Joshua 6:20 tells us the wall fell down flat, so that the people went up into the city. That's what's about to happen in your life. Wednesday is your 7th day, but here's the part that will shake you to your core when those walls fell at Jericho. It wasn't just about that one victory. It was the beginning of an unstoppable conquest. One city led to another. One breakthrough led to a campaign of victories. The fall of Jericho launched Israel into their promised land, and every subsequent battle was fought with the confidence of a people who had seen the impossible become inevitable. Your Wednesday breakthrough is your Jericho moment. And just like those ancient walls, what falls in your life this week won't be able to stand back up. The barriers that have held you captive for decades, the financial limitations, the health struggles, the relationship patterns that keep repeating, the dreams that felt too distant to reach, they're all about to meet the sound of heaven's trumpet over your life. One answered prayer will lead to another. One door will open to a hallway. One conversation will birth a destiny shift that changes the trajectory of your entire family line. But I need you to understand something that might terrify the comfortable and thrill the desperate. This 7-day wave doesn't operate on your timeline. It operates on heaven's urgency. When God decides to accelerate your life, He doesn't ask for your permission. He doesn't wait for you to feel ready. He moves when the appointed time arrives, and your only choice is to ride the wave or be swept away by your own resistance. Some of you have been praying the same prayer for 30 years. The same desperate cry for change, for breakthrough, for God to finally show up in your circumstances. And now, right now, heaven is about to answer not just that prayer, but every prayer that came before it, every whispered plea you've forgotten, every tear that fell in secret when you thought no one was watching. The compound interest on your faithfulness is about to be paid in full. Think about the widow with the jar of oil in 2 Kings chapter 4. When Elisha told her to gather vessels, not a few, but many, she probably thought he was being dramatic. But when she began to pour, that oil didn't just fill one jar, it filled every vessel in her house until there were no more containers left to fill. The miracle wasn't limited by the size of her faith. It was limited by the size of her expectation. How many vessels are you preparing, chosen one? How much room are you making in your life for the overflow that's about to hit your atmosphere? Because this 7-day wave is going to require space. Space in your schedule for unexpected opportunities. Space in your heart for relationships you never saw coming. Space in your bank account for abundance that will make you question whether you're dreaming. But here's where most people miss the fullness of their breakthrough. They prepare for a miracle, not a movement. They expect one blessing, not a cascade of favor. They position themselves for a moment of change, not a week that rewrites their entire story. Your Wednesday is not a moment, it's a movement. It's the beginning of 7 days when heaven's calendar aligns with Earth's clock, when the supernatural invades the natural, when what seemed impossible yesterday becomes inevitable today. Day 1. The breakthrough arrives like lightning, sudden, bright, undeniable. Day 2. Confirmation follows, signs that what happened wasn't coincidence, but divine orchestration. Day 3. Momentum builds, one blessing attracts another, one open door reveals a corridor of possibilities. Day 4. Opposition rises because breakthrough always stirs up resistance from what wants to keep you bound. Day 5. Victory emerges, the resistance breaks, and you realize nothing can stop what God has set in motion. Day 6. Acceleration increases, changes happen faster than you can process, favor flows faster than you can receive. Day 7. Establishment occurs, the new becomes normal, the miracle becomes your reality. This isn't speculation, beloved. This is the pattern of how heaven moves when it decides to shift someone from survival to abundance, from waiting to walking, from hoping to having. But I need to ask you a question that will determine whether you experience the fullness of this wave or watch it pass by. Are you ready to let go of the life you've been clinging to in order to embrace the life that's reaching for you? Because this 7-day wave will require you to release your grip on the familiar, even if the familiar has been painful. It will ask you to trust the current, even when you can't see the destination. It will demand that you stop paddling against the flow and start surrendering to the movement of God in your life. Get yourself a journal, not tomorrow, not next week, but today. Write the 7-day wave on the cover. This isn't just a notebook. This is your documentation of how God can transform a single Wednesday into a 7-day testimony that will strengthen your faith for the rest of your life. Because what's about to unfold in your story won't just change you, it will change everyone who witnesses it. Listen to me, chosen one. Right now, as I speak these words into the atmosphere, something unprecedented is happening in the spiritual realm. The cameras of destiny are rolling, the spotlight is fixed, the script is unfolding, and you, yes, you are the lead. But I need to tell you something that's going to shake you to your core. For 70, 80, maybe 90 years, you've been told your story is winding down, that your best scenes are behind you, that at your age, You should be content with reruns of your past instead of premieres of your future. That is the greatest lie ever whispered in your ear. Hollywood didn't choose you, beloved. Heaven did. And while Hollywood casts based on youth and beauty, heaven casts based on depth and destiny. While the world sees your wrinkles and calls them deterioration, God sees those same lines and calls them credentials. Every scar on your soul is a script note from the divine director. Every grey hair is a crown earned through battles that would have destroyed lesser actors. You think your age disqualifies you? Moses was 80 when God gave him the starring role in the greatest liberation story ever told. Abraham was 99 when he stepped into his breakthrough scene. Sarah was 90 when she birthed nations from her womb. Anna the prophetess was 84 when she got the privilege of announcing the Messiah to Jerusalem. Your birth certificate is not your limitation, it's your qualification. The world has convinced you that senior citizens are meant to be spectators, sitting in the audience of life, watching others live their dreams. But that is not your calling, that is not your script, that is not your Wednesday. Every heartbreak you've survived was a rehearsal for strength. Every door that slammed in your face was blocking you from settling for less than your starring role. Every night you cried yourself to sleep, wondering if your life mattered, was actually a night when heaven was rewriting your final act to be more magnificent than anything you ever imagined. The enemy tried to convince you that your scars were evidence of failure. But scars are not shame, they are signatures. God's autograph on a life that has been tested by fire and emerged as pure gold. 1 Peter 1-7 declares that your faith, being much more precious than gold that perishes, though it is tested by fire, may be found to praise, honor, and glory. You are not damaged goods sitting on heaven's clearance rack. You are the crown jewel that God has been saving for the climax of this age. This Wednesday will not be just another day in your routine. It will be the day when decades of preparation meet divine appointment. When all the scenes of struggle suddenly make sense because they were building toward this moment when change explodes into your atmosphere with the force of resurrection power. Isaiah 43-19 thunders from the throne room. Behold, I will do a new thing. Now it shall spring forth. Shall you not know it? I will even make a road in the wilderness and rivers in the desert. Not yesterday, not tomorrow. Now it shall spring forth. The cameras of destiny are rolling right now. Not for someone younger, not for someone prettier, not for someone with fewer mistakes in their past. For you, the one who has walked through valleys that would have broken weaker souls, the one who has carried burdens that would have crushed ordinary spirits, the one who has loved when love hurt, believed when faith seemed foolish, and kept going when quitting would have been easier. Hollywood makes movies about heroes who overcome impossible odds. But you, chosen one, you are that hero. You've been living that movie your entire life. And this Wednesday is when the soundtrack swells, when the lighting shifts, when everything that seemed random suddenly reveals itself as divinely orchestrated. The spotlight is fixed on you because you earned it. Not through perfection, but through persistence. Not through never falling, but through getting up every single time. Not through avoiding pain, but through transforming that pain into purpose that can heal a hurting world. Jeremiah 29-11 wasn't written for someone else's future. It was written for your Wednesday. For I know the thoughts that I think toward you, says the Lord, thoughts of peace and not of evil, to give you a future and a hope, a future. At your age, a hope, after everything you've been through. Change. When everyone said it was too late, the script is unfolding, and you are not a supporting character in someone else's story. You are the lead in a divine drama that has been building toward this climactic moment when heaven demonstrates that God specializes in using what the world has discarded, in anointing what society has forgotten, in promoting who the culture has retired. This Wednesday, you will not only watch the film of your life, you will feel heaven turn the page. You will sense the atmosphere shift from black and white into living color. You will experience the moment when the background music of your existence changes from a funeral dirge into a victory anthem. Change has come. Not slowly, not quietly, not partially. Change has come with the explosive power of Easter morning, when death itself had to surrender to life, when the grave had to release its captives, when darkness had to bow to light. The cameras are rolling. Your scene is beginning. The director of all creation is calling action. And you weathered, tested, refined by fire, you are stepping into the starring role that was written specifically for someone with your story, your scars, your strength. If you feel that electricity in the atmosphere right now, if your spirit is confirming that this Wednesday will indeed be cinematic, if you're ready to step out of the audience and onto the stage of your destiny, then declare it boldly in the comments. Change has come. Let the world know your story is shifting. Let heaven hear your faith. Let the enemy tremble at the sound of a chosen one who refuses to fade quietly into the background, but instead steps boldly into the spotlight of divine purpose. The film of your life is far from over, beloved. The final act is just beginning. Beloved chosen one, as we reach the end of this sacred encounter, I need you to carry these eternal truths with you like precious jewels in your heart. Remember this. This Wednesday is not just another day on your calendar, it's your divine appointment with destiny. The cameras of destiny are already rolling. The spotlight has found you, and heaven has cast you as the lead in a story so magnificent that angels lean in to watch. Your age is not your limitation, it's your qualification. Your scars are not your shame, they're your credentials. You were chosen not despite your story, but because of it. But hear me clearly, dear one. You are never walking this path alone. Even when the road feels uncertain, even when the scene seems unclear, even when doubt whispers lies in your ear, the Creator of the universe is directing every frame of your life. He's moving mountains you can't see, opening doors you haven't found yet, and orchestrating blessings that will leave you speechless. Romans 8:28 isn't just a verse, it's your reality. All things work together for good, to them that love God, to them who are the called according to His purpose. And right here, in this sacred digital sanctuary we've created together, you have thousands of brothers and sisters who understand your journey, who've walked similar paths, who are ready to stand with you in prayer and encouragement. We're not just viewers on a screen, we're a family, united by faith, connected by hope, and bound together by the love of Christ. Let me ask you this final question, and let it settle deep in your spirit. If God has brought you this far through every valley, every storm, every season that tried to break you, why would He abandon you now at the threshold of your greatest breakthrough? Before you leave this moment, I want to place my hand on your shoulder through these words and pray over your life with the authority of someone who has walked with the Almighty for decades. Heavenly Father, I lift up every precious soul who has stayed with us through this entire message. Lord, you see their hearts, you know their struggles, you've counted every tear they've shed in secret. But Father, you also see their Wednesday approaching. You know their breakthrough is imminent. You've already written their victory story. God, I pray that you would breathe fresh wind into their weary souls right now. Where they feel forgotten, remind them of their worth. Where they feel overwhelmed, be their strength. Where they feel alone, surround them with your presence that passes all understanding. Lord, make this Wednesday everything you've promised it would be. Open doors that no man can shut. Provide resources they haven't even thought to ask for. Send divine connections that will accelerate their purpose. Give them signs so clear, so undeniable, that doubt has no choice but to flee. Most importantly, Father, let them feel you right now. Let them know in their spirit that you are proud of how they've carried what you've given them. Let them feel your smile, your approval, your deep love for who they are and who they're becoming. Protect their hearts, Lord. Guard their minds, order their steps, and let this Wednesday be the day they look back on and say, that's when everything changed. In Jesus' mighty name, Amen. Now, I want to hear from you. In the comments below, share what God spoke to your heart today. What are you believing Him for this Wednesday? Don't hold back. Your testimony might be exactly what someone else needs to hear to ignite their own faith. If you feel that stirring in your spirit,